Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Wander and Muse with Heather. Thanks so much for listening in. I'm excited to get started with today's interview with Bryan Falcon. He is the producing artistic director over at Scoundrel and Scamp Theater right here in Tucson, Arizona. And we're going to learn so much about the plays coming up as part of the MacFestival. Mac as in Macbeth, as in Shakespeare.
Yes, yes.
So hello, Bryan.
Hi, Heather. So glad to be here with you.
I love having you here for sure. And I'm already familiar with Scoundrel and Scamp from when I've helped you out before with the Wobo show. But for those listeners who aren't, give a little bit of history about how long it's been around, how you got involved, that whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. This is our 8th year at the Scoundrel and Scamp. And when we first started out, I co-founded this theater with my wife, Elizabeth Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
And we were really intrigued about making theater which would be truly accessible to many different generations of people. So a lot of theater is known for being mostly of appeal to the older generation. And there's also children's theater, which is much alive. But we wanted to be able to be in that sweet spot between the two worlds, not much like to say Jim Henson's work.
Exactly.
Where you have the audience coming in and you have the kids and they are laughing at those Muppets.
Right.
But the adults are laughing at the Muppets too for very different reasons.
But
we're all in the same room together, laughing together. And so that's really what we wanted to do, was produce work that would have themes that would really appeal to many different generations. And not just generations too, but would we be able to do work that would really appeal across ethnic backgrounds, across language, what is the spot? And so over the years, 8 years of us doing this now, we've really found that physical theater, puppetry, theater that really engages the visual, really visual metaphor is the way to make, but also just laying in there a theater that also raises up really intriguing questions for people to consider. So we didn't want to do fluff.
Exactly.
Right? But we also didn't want to do things so intellectual that the heart was not engaged. And we really try to find that balance of the heart and the mind, and doing so tell a story which really helps us find our community.
Right. That's brilliant. And you're absolutely right about that community aspect. When I've been in the audience before and you have a 3-year-old and potentially a 103-year-old all laughing, it feels so good that is something that you can have in common with all these complete strangers for 90 minutes. I mean, it really does leave you leave there feeling better than when you arrived.
Yeah, and I think, not to bring up bad memories, but the pandemic, not so far behind us, we like to call it the Great Intermission, right? Coming back from that. In the middle of it, we were doing things that were like theater, but they weren't theater. Like this was this kind of uncanny space of we went on Zoom and other platforms we'd perform. But we realized is that the reason that we do theater is the same reason that we have live sports, right? We want to be in an audience of other people. We want to hear them breathing with us. We want to hear them laughing with us. And if it's live sports, just as that ball swishes through the basket for the win in the last seconds of the game, we all cheer together. And it's that communion that really brings us together. Right. And so during that great intermission, that's what we missed the most, was this time of being able to be in the same space with each other. And so that's the beauty of this story, is that now that we're a few years past that and audiences have returned. That's this last weekend we've been blessed with sold out audiences for the Wobo show, which I'd love to talk more about later too. Sure. But I think it's just people are just coming in and just with this sense of relief to step into a space, to experience a little bit of joy together, a little bit of art together, a little bit of finding each other in a common space. Definitely.
And like you said, we can talk more about the Wobo show later, but just one thing that just came to mind from when I interviewed Wolf, creator for Wobo Show, something he said, since he has traveled to, at least 26 countries, how his humor and the touching points of the thought-provoking moments really do go across countries too, and how the different nationalities would respond a little bit differently from humor. Like he was saying, I forgot, maybe it was the Germans who wouldn't really laugh until the very end or something like that, so that was really interesting too. The different aspects of just our cultures, but to bring all these cultures together is so, so important.
Yeah.
So as we talk about the MacFestival, MacFest, if people want to go ahead and go to your website, scoundrelandscamp.org, MacFestival. It might help them really get a better feel for the cast. They can go ahead and get tickets, see the timelines, that sort of thing. But let's go ahead and go through each of the plays, because each one is so distinct and special, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
let's start first off, I guess, in a broader sense, about how the local talent is the main part of this, although you are bringing in some outsiders as well. But I love how you came upon the talent. You opened it up a little more broadly than you do for a typical audition. So talk a little bit about that at first.
Well, the seed for the festival came from every year we read lots and lots of plays,
Sure.
and we do it with a rubric saying, what is the appeal for this? Does this have heart? Does this have duende? Does it have visual metaphor? All these different things that help us pull together plays that feel like Scoundrel and Scamp. The thing that we kept discovering is that somehow, for whatever reason, we kept coming back to plays that were all inspired by Macbeth.
Okay.
And so after a while, we're like, we have so many plays, but we need a reason to do this. There has to be a why. And so then one of our staffers said, hey, why don't we do a festival? And we go, oh, a festival. That's very intriguing.
Yes.
And so, well, what does that mean? Well, okay, so like all of a sudden we have this like reason to be able to say, all right, so we need to do the actual play Macbeth to go and anchor things, but we need to do it in a way that is good for, or it's the Scoundrel and Scamp reason or way to do it, right? So we said we're intrigued by exploring how power dynamics, power structures, systematic, traditionally masculine structures, what happens when a woman steps into that? How does that change them, the world? And so that took us down to working with an all-female cast. And my co-founder, Elizabeth, took the play and adapted it in collaboration with Lisa Volpe, who is a co-director of the show with me. Lisa Volpe is a world-renowned Shakespearean actor, director, performer who has probably performed what we call breeches roles, switching genders to play different parts. She's probably played Hamlet, Richard III more than most men.
I love that.
Yeah, and so she is going to be performing, for example, in Rome this summer. She'll be in Prague this summer, performing and directing these different roles. And part of the reason she came in to work with us is because specifically we were taking on this play and saying we want to have women step into these male parts. So how do you do that? Sure. And so she walked us through the way that even women and men move differently, how they approach power. Right, she talked a lot about the chakras and chakra alignment, and how men quite often will have their chakras aligned, and they basically will go ahead and take the space and they move. Men don't back up; they go ahead and they just lead with their head or they lead with their groin, and take the space. Women tend to break the chakras, right? So it's deference. It's so what happens when you have people that traditionally are women who are because of our environment, because of our culture, are used to being this, all of a sudden they need to become this, right? How that changes everything. And then you stick these women in boots and you give them swords, right? Then there's all kinds of things to explore. And so it's been a fascinating
the sword.
Yeah, right.
Right, when I was a Viking one year for Halloween.
Well, right, you feel it. Fierce, right?
Yes.
So that all female productions at the heart of the MacFestival. But then we have a series of other plays that are all inspired by. It's not Shakespeare's words necessarily, but just inspired by the same themes. And so we will be doing a play called Mac Bitches. Mac Bitches is a play of 5 women in a college theater program. And the freshman got the role of Lady Macbeth unexpectedly, and all of the politics and intrigue that come out of that particular thing. So I think anybody who's been part of an arts program will recognize the characters, right? So that's the college version. So then we have Peerless, which is the high school version. We have not that it's for high schoolers, but rather the characters. There's a pair of Asian American twins, and they are really going after a position, an opening at an Ivy League school.
Mm-hmm.
They are convinced that the only way they're going to get it is through uh,
Murder.
Murder. They get there. They get there. But basically, diversity programs.
Oh,
All right.
right.
And so, and the person that is going to get that particular position happens to be another boy in their high school who is in a wheelchair and is.
So he checks off diversity boxes
1/16 Native American, and so they figure out the only way they're going to get in is if they kill him.
Oh my goodness! Oh my
goodness. He's allergic to peanut butter, and they feed him a peanut butter sandwich, and then. Yes, murder happens, but then afterwards they realize there's two sisters. There's only one Spock.
Oh no!
Right, so this really dives into kind of zero-sum game thinking and the challenges.
Well, Mary Kate and Ashley figured it out.
right. So, that's gonna. It's a reading. We'll only have 2 performances of that.
Right. So, real quick before you go into the next, just so people can mark their calendars. So, Peerless, the one you just mentioned about the twins, that is March 29th and 30th. That's one of the quickest ones.
That's
just
right. Just 2.
And then Macbitches, which you already mentioned, that's April 4th through 13th.
That's right.
And starting off with Macbeth, that is the soonest. Oh my gosh, March 6th.
It's coming up quick.
Okay, so move forward then. So It Is Magic.
Yeah, so It Is Magic. Well,
April 10th through 20th.
Yeah, it is April. Yes, that's right. It Is Magic is both a Dear John letter and a love letter to the theater. And the reason we were so inspired to do this one is because the play takes place in the Mortier Community Playhouse.
Okay.
Which it takes place in the basement of this Midwest playhouse as 2 women who are employees of the theater are auditioning another actor for the role of the wolf in an adult version of the 3 Little Pigs that one of them has penned. And the play starts and you are on the 20th, the 30th iteration of another audition. It keeps going and going and going because no matter how hard this poor actor tries, he doesn't quite find it.
Okay.
The it that we look for in the theater all the time. We go to shows, some shows we go, I just didn't feel it.
Right.
You go to other shows, you go, it was there, it had it, right? And so that elusive it that we are going for in the theater, right? And so...
so it is magic.
It is magic, right? And so the elusive nature of that. But it's set against a backdrop of characters from Macbeth. Macbeth is happening upstairs in the playhouse, while this is going in the basement. And so we decided to hold our play in the basement of our theater. And so when audiences come in, and this is a found space, limited seating, but they'll come in, they'll go down the stairs, down to the basement of this old historic Y. They'll descend into this old 1930s basement where the play will happen. And it's a funny play and dark, and it's so good. Yeah, so that's going to be happening.
And I love that it's in the basement.
Yes.
That's brilliant. Like, why not? Yes. I love that.
Right, like, there's a basement. Let's use it. Yeah.
That environment in and of itself will give it a completely different feel. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, great.
And then after that, we will hold a collaboration with 4 other theater companies. It's called 5 Acts, 5 Max. And our concept here is we invited 4 other theater companies each to take 1 act from Macbeth and do it with their own particular take. So it's not necessarily the text of Macbeth.
Right.
It's the act, the themes in the act, the characters in the act. And so we have, for example, Saguaro City, a brilliant local musical theater company is going to be taking Act 5. They're doing it as a musical theater piece, right?
I love it.
We have Winding Road is coming in and doing going to be poetry. We have Borderlands Theater coming in, and they're going to be doing a full music dance piece for theirs. We're going to have our Scamps from the Scoundrel and Scamp who are performing the kids' version of the first act. And and then we have an improv act, which is going to be Unscrewed Theater. So it's just, in a way, it's a way for us to collaborate. It's a festival. We want to bring in the other art organizations in the community, but also a way to be able to lift that dark cloud that is the story of Macbeth.
I love it. And then even the Loft Cinema.
Yes. So just this is very recent development. We are collaborating, co-producing with them at the Loft Cinema. They're going to be showing Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood.
Right, April 3rd.
Yes, and it is a classic inspired by Macbeth, and so we just wanted to be able to have film in our festival as well. And not just film, but also we have even a book club that's going in
There are
parallel.
4 different books.
4 different books and two sessions they've had already.
Oh, they have.
But
Okay,
there
so
are two
two more.
more coming
Gotcha.
out. But these are all books that are all themed around Macbeth, and so they get
Such a
together
good idea.
Yeah. And then the last piece of it, there's going to be a special conversation that's going to be happening. And the cool story about this is after one of our shows, one of our patrons was walking out and she said, "Bryan, I know you're doing this MacFestival. Have you ever heard of Macbird? Do you know Macbird?" I said, I do. Actually, I have a very dog-eared copy on my dining room table right now. And
wow.
What Macbird is, it's a 1967 political satire of Macbeth. And the premise is that Kennedy was murdered by LBJ. LBJ is the Macbeth character in it. And so in the 1960s, there was lots of controversy, right? It got put in Greenwich Village, and so it just happens that the playwright of Macbird is the sister to our patron. And so Barbara Garson's the playwright. Barbara Garson is going to be coming in from New York.
I love
We're going to be putting on two scenes from it. She's going to talk about the play.
That's so
and
cool.
It's just going to be wonderful.
And that's March 22nd.
Yes, March 22nd.
That's so cool. And, growing up, I'm trying to think of when I first was required to read Shakespeare. I guess junior high, maybe high school. Do you remember the very first Shakespeare you had in your life? Do you even remember?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. No one's ever asked me. So here's the thing. Before I read Shakespeare, I had a book and it had artwork, kind of these etchings from Shakespeare. And that's my earliest recollection of Shakespeare, was just kind of paging through these books and looking at these etchings, these characters out of Shakespeare. So I knew the personalities even before I knew the stories.
Okay. Yeah. Which is probably easier to interpret, honestly.
Yeah, right.
I was Googling, different quotes from Macbeth. And I was like, will I be familiar with these? And the one that definitely came to mind was Double, Double, Toil and Trouble from the Witches. I was like, I didn't actually realize that was originally Shakespeare, because we've all, done that every Halloween, double, double, toil and trouble. I mean, do you have a favorite quote?
Oh, favorite quote.
Either from Macbeth or just...
There's just this, so in that there are so many quotes from it that have just come into our cultural awareness, and which they're kind of in the air around us.
So we don't even know the root.
And part of that, there's something like, Macbeth has been done on Broadway countless times. And part of the reason for that is because it is such a part of our culture.
Right.
Part of just even our language, carries that too. And so,
it's so hard to probably pick one.
It's hard. I mean, there's something, the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, that speech just has such resonance.
Yes.
And I should say that our particular version of it, actually, it's been adapted so it is much more lean, streamlined than many
fast-paced.
Fast-paced. But also, there have been 2 speeches that have been rearranged. So all the words are Shakespeare's.
Okay.
But we've taken some liberties with the order of things and who gets to say what.
That's
interesting. And it really frames things in a very interesting way, which I think will resonate even more with modern audiences than the original version.
Exactly.
Which was made for a king.
Sure.
A long dead king. And we don't need to appease him anymore. So let's go ahead and do our own thing.
Exactly.
That speaks to our people.
And if you could imagine the ghost of Shakespeare sitting in the audience, how do you think he'd feel about the MacFestival?
I think he would be, intrigued, excited. I mean, I think it's one of these things where we have spent a lot of time investing in the first folio version of Macbeth. And first folio, for those who aren't familiar with it, it was the first version that we had that was captured, by friends of Shakespeare shortly after he died.
Okay.
And then since then, there have been many versions of Shakespeare that come through other editors, and those editors interpret certain words differently, and they add punctuation.
Of course.
And
with any art form, you're going to interpret it differently.
But the thing is by going back to the first folio, it feels like we're doing archaeology, in that it's the closest thing that we have to really understanding what Shakespeare intended.
Okay.
Because through the spelling of the words, like there is go, G-O, and there's G-O-E, go. But you know that when he's using go, then that is something that has a different breath, motivation behind it, right? You take a look at the punctuation, and there's clues in there. Comma means go ahead and take it up a level in energy. Okay. A colon goes ahead and gives you a chance to be able to have a kind of more thoughtful approach to things. A period in the middle of a line is an indication. Probably afterwards is going to come a number of monosyllabic syllables, which means you have to drive to the end of the line. Capitals really say, go ahead and lift this out of the speech, right? Yeah, right.
So cool.
So in a way, like when we are reading First Folio, and come back to the question about what do you think Shakespeare would think, it feels like Shakespeare's sitting right beside us going, it's go, not go, it's go. Right, and that gives us a lot of energy to be able to have that. Yeah.
That's so cool. And sure, Wikipedia isn't really the best source for things. Let's agree on that. However,
yes.
I did just put in, what is Macbeth about? And this is what it showed me. A 5-act tragedy where William Shakespeare explores the destructive psychological and physical effects of political ambition.
Yes.
Macbeth becomes a tyrannical ruler. And I thought,
yes,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, right.
So the fact that perhaps something that was written so long ago can now be relevant as well is just magical.
It is, yeah. Humans don't change. Human dynamics don't change, and so what was relevant then is relevant now.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I want to say the website one more time: scoundrelandscamp.org/MacFestival, or just go to scoundrelandscamp.org. You'll get there. Scoundrel, just to make it super easy, SCOUNDRELANDSCAMP, just to make it super easy to get to scoundrelandscamp.org/MacFestival. Starts March 6th. So what else do you want people to know? Oh, let's talk about the Flex Pass with all 5 plays.
Yes.
So, mention that real quick.
Yeah, it's a festival, and so part of it, we wanted to immerse ourselves in the world. We wanted to give the possibility for audiences to immerse themselves in the world as well. And part of it we were so intrigued by is, I mentioned it as magic, which is taking place in the basement when Macbeth is taking place upstairs on the stage, and the actor who has to play the second murder on opening night needs to go from downstairs to upstairs in order to be able to get there, so you have that tension. We were like, what if our festival's like that too? Would it be possible for our audience to be able to go to these shows in rapid order, or maybe even the same day? Right. The way we structure things, there's some events that are overlapping like that, so it is possible to catch Barbara Garson's talk, for example, and go out, have dinner, and come back and watch Macbeth. But if you want to be able to get the full experience, we do have a MacFlex Pass that will get you into 5 of our shows.
I love it.
As part of that, and so you really get a full sampling of this world of Macbeth.
And just so people know, if they're not already familiar with Scoundrel and Scamp, you are in the historic so right downtown Tucson.
Right. Yeah, we're right off of the historic 4th Avenue shopping district, in this beautiful building, which is worth just walking around in and of itself. We're in the old swimming pool and so and so we do get in people from time to time that come in and say, oh yeah, I got my lifeguard certification here. Back in the 80s. Right. But we're a theater now, so you can come enjoy the shows.
My youngest daughter did trapeze with Zuzi.
Yes. Zuzi was there for many years. Yeah. Still, they do their salsa shows with us still.
Oh, okay, cool. Great. Well, I really encourage everyone to check out scoundrelandscamp.org, not only for the MacFestival that's coming up starting March 6th, but like we've mentioned, the Wobo show, that's an ongoing series. Many other. It's always very fresh, always new, always relevant. So any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, well, I just want to mention, coming back to Wobo show, is just wonderful for all ages. So even if you go Maybe the MacFestival is a little dark for my 5-year-old. It is. Don't bring them. But right. But they could come to the Wobo show. And we also are very honored to have a master puppeteer in the space with us, Lisa Stirs, who worked with Jim Henson for many years and worked on different movies. She runs her red herring puppets out of our space. So for the very young ones, so if you want to bring your 3-year-old, we have a number of puppet shows that have over the course of the season. And
Fantastic.
So for that. Yeah. So something for everyone.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Bryan, and thanks so much for everyone listening today. Check out wanderandmusewithheather.world to see all the different interviews I've had, and go ahead and follow me wherever you listen, Spotify, wherever. And definitely go create something today.